Thank you so much for still staying with us. You're still watching Business Insights on Leader Network, and our guest still remains Mrs. Sadia Aliyu. Thank you so much for still staying with us, madam. Now let's talk about our heritage. What lessons can we learn from our heritage, which seems to really be fading away in this day and age?
I find that a really sad question because you made a brilliant observation. I think as a nation, we can do a lot more than we're doing in terms of conservation and preservation of our heritage sites. I think sadly, actually, we are letting down generations to come. We will not be able to experience this. So I'm from Niger State, and so I'm relatively close to places like where you have the red wall that goes essentially all across the city. And I know you grew up in Kano, so you know more about this than I do. And you know that they are beginning to essentially crumble. Parts of it are being preserved, but it's coming a bit too late. If we move to somewhere like Edo State, of course, the Benin Kingdom is massive. These are kingdoms where actually artifacts were moved to somewhere like Britain to preserve them. There's a whole argument now, by the way, about trying to repatriate some of those.
Some of them, right.
The question, of course, is can we preserve them? Now, as a company at Urban Shelter, it's really important for us when we're moving to locations to know what's happening in that area. To know, are we entering sites that are preserved? Are we entering locations that have heritage importance? And these are places that we try and avoid as much as possible because, again, that sense of responsibility, I think it's something both as a private entity, as an organization we should take, but also I think the government has to. I know that there are agencies that are supposed to handle this, and I really actually would say, maybe with people like you on board to be able to apply pressure to do that, that would help, and it's something that I think Urban Shelter can also get on board with. It was such a sense, we had such a strong sense of preservation. There's a project we've actually named Queen Amina Garden.
Oh.
It's behind you. It's, we did the drawings to have almost that kind of Kano-like, not Kano, let me use the word Emirate-like feel, because you see the same designs in Zaria Emirate, you see the same them in Sultan Sokoto's Emirate property, and the same in Kano, and we were going for that feel of homes. And this was kind of our way of giving back to society, and it's a project that we're hoping to take off in 2024, first quarter. So that's our own way of kind of reimagining that culture, and we actually went ahead to say we want the name Queen Amina Residences, Queen Amina Garden for the regional areas as well. But unfortunately, like I said, I think as a nation we have to do better, and I hope that as part of this incoming government's agenda, say, preservation and conservation of Nigeria's heritage is really important.
I mean, I totally agree. On my last visit to Kano, I visited the Emir of Kano's palace, and totally beautiful. So it's always beautiful to connect with those that came before you, understand how. Yes, history is. I mean, it helps us, right? Moving forward, really, we know that when it comes to the real estate sector, the construction sector, it's an avenue for huge job creation, massive job creation. How can we really better position ourselves such that more jobs open up and people are not dying on sites due to building collapses and all of that?
So I'm really passionate about the statement you've made about the transformative potential of real estate industry, construction industry in the economy. And a quick example of that is last year's economy. I think the economy grew by 2 point something, maybe let's say 3%. I think just under 3% in terms of growth. The real estate construction industry grew by 6%. So that already tells you that it grew at double the rate. For Urban Shelter, ours was more like 14-15%. This is net. So when you look at that, it means that even when an economy is not fast tracking itself in terms of growth, there is potential for value to be unlocked when it comes to real estate. If you take a typical house, for instance, depending on, because we have a huge labor, we have huge youth as well that can be engaged, and there are people that are just good with their hands. It's not a hugely technical thing if you're building bungalows, if you're building, ground plus one. Think about the kind of people you need for just the real estate, the construction part, whether it's tilers, mason workers, screeder, painter, roofer, actual blocks, and that's just the direct labor of it. When you look at the manufacturing processes that are involved for real estate, somebody has that tile factory, somebody has the roof factory, somebody creating blocks.
Absolutely.
Dangote, cement industry, these are the giants and titans of all of Africa, and it's from something like Select. So when you look at that, you begin to say, okay, wow, this is a huge industry. Now let's go to the secondary aspect of it. Lawyers that are creating agreements, estate agents, valuers, and so on and so forth, consultants, engineers, and there as well. You then have changes where it comes to even agencies that are created simply to look at how construction is being done, government agencies, rural housing, and so on. And then you have the fourth one, which is power. You cannot have a house without power. You can't have a house without water, without sanitation, without other infrastructure works that allows that person to live. And suddenly there's an entire ecosystem surrounding just building. It's something that we need to really put an eye on, and by that I'm talking to the government. So there have been interventions when it comes to agriculture. Let's put money in agriculture. All well and good, I'm fine with that, of course. Education, again, please, let's get our kids back to school. Health, absolutely. Our maternity mortality rates are not great, let's improve it. But we're not doing enough to put a spotlight in terms of trying to advance the economic progression of Nigeria and look at something like real estate and construction and realize that it can have a huge impact. And I really wanted, like I said, I'm speaking to you, but I'm hoping the government is also listening. And then, the new ministers come in and new government comes in and they're going to pay attention to this. Urban Shelter alone directly employs 300 staff. Directly. Indirectly, we can't even count them because you have close to 100 suppliers, you have close to 70 contractors. That's just I'm not including the mama put that is on every that is front of it, and she knows for 2 years she has a guaranteed income for 2 years because workers are going to come in, laborers are going to come in, clients might stop over and buy something quickly as well before.
Of course.
And so that is an industry in itself. So I really want to say that I think this is a huge opportunity for Nigeria. That if we can unlock real estate and opening it up, we're doing it already. Because like I said, the fact that the industry is growing at 6% compared to the economy tells you that difference is another advantage that can be further exploited, further explored, and can really have a transformative potential to the economy, to unemployment, to income generation, and so on and so forth. And I'm really proud for Urban Shelter that we're doing that small part of it. And imagine 1,000 and million other urban shelters. Not as amazing as us, of course, but imagine similar companies growing that industry. And yeah, it's an exciting thing to be part of. I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy to be part of it.
Do you also want to take this opportunity to talk about, in terms of loan rates for, say, the construction sector? Like you said, of course, there's a focus on education, there's a focus on agriculture. These are very important bits, but we also need to support, because it requires heavy investment. It's capital intensive, so what's your take on this, January? What have you? Give or take 15 minutes.
So when I do, I'll make it quick. When I do panels and when I have discussions on real estate, I actually always mention that for me, construction and real estate is a finance problem more than a bricks and mortar problem. Urban Shelter, we can produce 5,000 houses a year if we want to. We don't. We produce more like 400-500. The reason is because there aren't enough financial tools for you and I to go and just get a mortgage and buy those 10,000, 5,000 units. So that's why we keep it money. Because if you and I go to the next bank for a mortgage, it will be anywhere between 25 to 30%. That is not tenable. Outside the country, in the UK, interest rates are something like 2-3%. I think in the US, they're now close to 5-6%. You probably can correct me if I'm wrong, but let me say they are single digits. And then you come to a country, Nigeria, where it's more like 25-30. Now, I understand some of the reasons why it's that high, because the macroeconomy. Inflation, I think it's reaching is 18-17.
It's over 20. Over 20.
I've noticed also when the bankers and CBN government meet every 2 or so months, they're increasing the NPR.
Yes.
So I understand that these things are all good together. But this is where the word intervention comes. You have intervention funds that are, I think, 6, 7, 8, 9% against single digits by the CBN for certain industries. I think we have to have that also for real estate. And they should be on both the supply side and on the demand side. The demand side are you and I, Gwyneth Sunday, that want to buy a house. So
Gwyneth and Sunday?
It should be single digit. And again, people in the audience might say, well, there's Federal Mortgage Bank Nigeria. There are too many of us for one institution to handle. So you need to wake up and do far more. Traditionally in America, it's things like Fannie Mac. They were creating and remortgaging properties for individuals. So you need 10 more Federal Mortgage Bank Nigerians, or you need to empower commercial banks to have preferential rates also for mortgages that will allow individuals to get their foot on the ladder. On the supply side, again, now back to companies like Urban Shelter, absolutely. So when you're buying a house and the house costs 10 naira, the cost of building the house might be 4 naira. The cost of overheads might be 1 naira. The cost of financing that project is 3-4 naira. After that 10 naira. So imagine a situation where instead of that cost of financing a project is 25%, imagine if it's 5%. That means the cost of your property drops down immediately, and these are advantages, savings, that can be passed on to the client. So that a 10 naira house, let me say 10 million naira house, instead of costing 10 million, might actually just cost you 7 or 8 million naira. So I think intervention has to be done both on the supply side and on the demand side. It's going to need that leadership to be able to say, look, CBN or commercial banks, we need you to cash the interest rates. We need you to come up with financial tools that allow people to get on mortgages, to allow people to buy their houses, and then to allow companies like Urban Shelter to unlock and build 10,000 homes instead of 500 homes annually.
So I mean,
that's the only thing
the new government has a lot of work to do and partnerships. Yeah.
Expectations are high, you know. Expectations are high. We're optimistic, and we hope to see great changes.
Hopefully, I mean, I hope to see same. I mean, in terms of local sourcing, you've mentioned that direct employment alone by Urban Shelter, it's well over 300, and indirect employment, we have lost count. We are mounting buildings in different locations and the accessories that come with this. What's the percentage of locally sourced items as against those that have to be imported, and what are those imported items that you believe that that Nigeria has the potential to scale up its production or even commence production in these lines?
Such a brilliant question. Thank you very much. So, and our pure honesty, before COVID, we were doing more like 50-50. We would source locally and we would source internationally. Post-COVID, it's actually tipped the scale to more like 70-80 locally and 20% internationally. So the first material we use for our local production is actually a subsidiary that let me call them a sister company, Shelter Clean. I mentioned the red bricks we produce locally in Tantra, Niger State. And these go towards the construction. They substitute the normal concrete blocks that you would use for building. So that's the first thing that we use when it comes to our affordable and intermediate range products. But we also went into partnerships 3-4 years ago with tile manufacturing companies. Tiles things like tiles were some of the largest components of
tile manufacturing companies here in Nigeria.
Yes, here in Nigeria, absolutely. And we tied them up to say this is what our annual capacity intake, what we're looking to achieve, what we're trying to fill. So let's say 10,000 square meters of tiles. And they would say, yes, we can, or no, we cannot do it. Or for Urban Shelter, we would shut down and not take any orders and focus on you. And we had that partnership, and we were able to do them is to concentrate on the quality. And we would say, we like this quality, these are the specifications. And mostly, they actually rose up to that challenge. And I'm really proud of the local manufacturers, in particular for tiles as well.
Excellent.
Really proud. Others are things like carpentry, let's call it woodwork. So things like doors, kitchens, wardrobes, and so on and so forth as well. But the majority as well, we've done that for locally. Like I said, it's now more like 70, 80, and 30. There's still a 20-30% that we bring internationally.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sati Ali, for your time, for this conversation, for the work Urban Shelter is doing in beautifying Nigeria, really, because I remember driving through the facility in Life Camp. There was this feeling myself and my husband had when we were driving through, and I think it's laudable. Would like to say thank you so much for also accommodating Leader Network at your facility today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Irene. I really appreciate being here. But what's like you mentioned also, I think really validates the work we do. It can be a very intense, stressful situation when you're in real estate. So we appreciate kind of getting that feedback. And I'd like to take just 10 seconds to appreciate the whole Urban Shelter team, because while I get to be the visible person, it's important to know there's a good team of us that kind of are daily working passionately, committedly. And everybody from the managers to the board to the tea lady. Thank you very much, Urban Shelter.
I mean, I know that you're an amazing leader. One thing I would say, and I always say that to you, is there's an interview you granted and there was something you said about being pregnant. You said when women are pregnant, they're not dying, they're just pregnant. So they can do all the work they need to do. And that was one word that really it was part of the things that saw me through my pregnancy, and I think it's just beautiful. It's important that I put this out there, that women can, if we choose to, we can, and we do fantastically well when we choose to. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate